stream, we've got some bossa nova jazz music going on right now, and this community hangout is, of course, the Christmas edition. Is the Christmas special edition. So I hope you enjoy this comic review, and let's get into it. Our first comic for the night is a story done by Klaus Ray Murphy and and Klaus Ray Murphy and the wonderful, the most talented artist I have ever seen and have ever read and has ever been published in the Phantom. I know I've just said that. He's one of my favorite Phantom artists of this time, and it is no other than Ramendo Felmang and good old Anthony Benny, which is good old Eugenio Benny, I think. I think Anthony Benny is like an acronym for his name, so that's pretty cool. And then the second issue after this issue, we will be then looking at the Christmas issue of all Christmases. It is the 2022 Christmas special. It is an amazing book. I'll be getting to it. There's three stories in this book. It's another amazing cover. I I really I'm sort of happy about it, but I'm sort of not, because once the first time I saw it on when it first came out and people were talking about it and it was on the internet on good old Instagram, I wasn't really that fond of it. But now I've got it in my hands and I've read it, I have a bit of a different perspective and a different sort of, you would say, take on it, I guess. But now we're going to be reviewing The Missing Link. It is a fantastic story. It's one of the stories I absolutely loved. It has no other than, as I just said, Ramando Felming. It starts off very, very strangely. The Phantom, he's coming into a storm, and he's in Morristown, Bengala, and he's probably just walking, as everyone knows. It is also said that the Phantom moves faster than lightning. There is an old jungle saying there are times when the Phantom leaves the jungle and walks the streets of the town like an ordinary man. But this time, it seems to be the other way round. So basically, what he was mean back there is that the Phantom is running. What? We don't usually see the Phantom running. And so the Phantom then he goes into this museum, and there's a tour on in this museum. And one of the pieces, the first piece they talk about is the Brachiosaurus, and the second a full skeleton of the Brachiosaurus, which is the largest and the heaviest known herbivore of all the dinosaur species. And then they go on to this extraordinary creation, this extraordinary skull, and it happened to be that good old Phantom, the ghost who walks, knows about this adventure. Now, this skull is perhaps many had believed, and the scientists in this story believe that this skull was the missing skull of the missing link. Now, last time we had a look at, I think, the last issue, which was also called The Missing Link, and it also had, I think, the missing links in the chain. That was a sequel to the original Falcon Barry story. And this story, you would say, is the Sweden version of The Missing Link. It was first published by Semic Press in Scandinavia, Phantom number 25 in 1993. And this skull now happens to be in a Phantom story. So the Phantom, he's about to tell us the story, and there's these two well, they're not archaeologists because that has something to do with finding bones, but they are. It's to do with paleontology. So they are finding lots of very unique lots of very unique objects in this expedition into the jungle. And one of the things that Mr. Tibbs finds, and one of the things that Mr. Tibbs isn't very happy about, is him not being the lead person of the science department of in this museum at the current time. So because he's not the lead person, he sort of gets a little bit of jealousy. So he then creates a plot to try and sway people into believing I've just I've just discovered the most amazing thing that has ever happened to the human existence. And this story, after this story is told, it has been scandalous. It has been well, you would say a forgery. So, after Mr. Tibbs has finished his, well, you'd say, work of art, he then puts it into the ground. The next day following is the day that Mr. Tibbs isn't very happy about the department's decision. So then he creates this plot. The Jungle Patrol at the time was to do. The Jungle Patrol and Bengala at the time were held under still a British colony. And he works out that because this big discovery of the missing link and how he's so stressful that he's forged this unique skull is that the news that this big missing link, the biggest discovery in the world of this time, the news spreads like usual. The news spreads. It goes into newspaper after newspaper, and the Jungle Patrol commander of that time and the Jungle Patrol general of that time, the colonel of that time, then writes his special report to the commander of that time, and as we all know, that is the current Phantom of that time, which would have been, I think, the 19th Phantom or the 20th Phantom. Would have been the 19th Phantom. And the young native then delivers that message to the Phantom, a message to the Phantom. But he is not here right now. He's with them at Wambesi. Go there as fast as you can, Courier. Make sure the message reaches the Phantom. Straight away, my chief. He then goes. He's running through the jungle. The 19th Phantom meditated between the Wambesi and the Lonago peoples regarding fishing rights. There are more than enough fish for everyone. O ghost you walks, I have a message from the chief to Rain. Huh? There has been a call, Phantom. The lamp is lit. I heard the drums too, Kuri. Probably just the monthly report, but it'll have to wait until the talks are over. So, what does this report mean? What has this report got in it? It's got a reporting of the discovery of a lifetime. It's got a reporting of this missing link, this discovery, this skull that has been found. And Mr. Tibbs, he then goes to well, you'd say an unexplored adventure, an unexplored area of the jungle, and he finds this big ruin, this big, big, big building. He then finds that there's gold in this building, and he's then taken over and ambushed by criminals, a gang that had heard of the missing link and had heard of the discovery that he had made. They discover that there's a big hole in the floor, and under that hole is a giant, a magnificent, a giant python. And the Phantom then goes to rescue the scientists and try and, well, you'd say not try, well, you would say not for them to starve. So then he tries and fights the criminals, and the monkeys get in the way, and they ruin his surprise. And then the Phantom is thrown through that hole, and he has to then battle with the giant python. He thinks that there's two pythons there. One's fast asleep, and then maybe the other one may sneak away without disturbing it. Maybe I can sneak away without disturbing it. But he finds out that other python was, in fact, its skin of a past. Skin of the python. But the Phantom, he's in a struggle to get out alive. He then takes the python's neck and breaks the neck broken. The neck has of the snake is then broken. He then finds a way out through a staircase. He basically makes this ruin and this temple collapse. That is pretty much the reason why the Phantom escapes. He then saves the scientists and the criminals and wraps all the criminals up, and then they go to the authorities with more exploration into this skull. We have to see there has been more exploration and more scientific proven that this skull has been forged. The missing link, the discovery of a lifetime, has been forged. And then Tibbs Archibald, is then fired from the museum. And by the end of this adventure, the storm has broken for now. And it seems that the storm has passed. So I don't have to stand here and ponder it any longer. Tibbs was of course fired, but the temple find attracted a lot of attention and can still be viewed at the Ethnographic Museum as far as I know. But for now, the storm seems to have passed, so I don't have to stand here and ponder it any longer. Well, there you go. Was the missing link a real creature? Have we been evolved from, you would say, apes? And have we been a subject of an ape man? Has this missing link ever survived? And has this missing link ever existed? Well, we'll probably never actually know those questions, the answers to those questions, but for now, we have the forum. Ah, yes. Another thing that we didn't, I did not expect this. This was so funny. This issue is one of the reasons why it's so damn great. Why it's so damn great. So, Gered, he's on an elephant. He's going through the jungle. He is then, you would say, he does a bomb into the lake, and then he's getting attacked by a crocodile. Oh, is it a crocodile or is it a snake? No, it's a snake. And then, as you would say, the elephant rescues him. So damn great. Great humor, great story. Not much in it, but It's a great humour and a great way to finish this issue. Meanwhile, at the Jungle Patrol HQ, be like the Colonel, and as always, subscribe to the Phantom for $208 per year. You can now subscribe online at www.phantomcomic.com.au. Now we have, you would say this is a new ad. We have books for the discerning Phantom fiends. We have the Phantom trade paperbacks through 1 to 4. We have the Legacy series issue 1. We have the Kid Phantom collection issue 1. We have the graphic novel issue 1 and graphic novel issue 2, The Ghost and the Monster. All available, yes, all available from www.phantomcomic.com.au. Now, get ready. We have our third ad for this evening. It is none other than the Generations portfolio. You can now get the Generations portfolio at 13 pieces. There's only 13 pieces, only 100 prints are made, 100 collections of these prints have been made. And I have one, I have I have one of those 100 that were made. And now you can get all 13 all 13 prints for only $95. You can call at 0292618122 or visit phantomcomic.com.au. Now these folios are so damn cool, and this one in particular is so damn high quality. It's very high quality, and they are great images. Most of them are very, very awesome to look at. They're very, very awesome to just look at, and they're very, very awesome just to have yeah, they just look awesome. They have been very well done by. I can say that. I can recommend them. And if you say have $95 after Christmas, after all the presents you've either bought or bought for other people, I definitely recommend this. It is an amazing piece of art, it's an amazing collection, and now we're getting into the 2022 Christmas special. Now we have issue number 1934, the Christmas special. It is the 2022 Christmas special. The cover of this book has been done by no other than has been done no other than has been done by no other than Caracazzo. Has been done by no other than Giancarlo Caracazzo. A great issue, a great book, but we have a lot. I'm just going to say this. We have, in this book, I'm going to show you, we have a lot of printing errors. And the next issue to come out after this will be the New Year's special. It's full color, original story, done by the same guy who did the cover art, Giancarlo Caracazzo, which will be The Pirates in the Abbey. It's on sale on the 5th of January 2023, and that will be in issue number 1935. The first story we have is the vigil at the Phantom Head. There's a police officer. Is trapped, and every night, every day, he has to have that will, that urge to survive until the next day. And the Phantom, he hears of his grandma, and his grandma is coming. She's coming to see the Phantom. She makes a vigil near the Phantom's peak. The Phantom comes. She tells her story. The Phantom looks and looks to see where this guy has been and is. The Motawan police the Bengala police force have, well, you would say, left this guy to be dead and has been missing for months now. So the Phantom finds him. He's nearly at the point where he's nearly quite dead and he's nearly going to drown. The Phantom saves him. They then go on a mad adventure to see where is this warehouse, who owns this warehouse, and in the coming pages of this story was so damn good. I enjoyed it. I didn't really read the full story when every day it was coming out as a Sunday. I didn't read it, but it's a great story once it was collected all up into a giant Christmas special. The Phantom, they basically set the Phantom and the police officer set a trap for the people that are coming back to their warehouse. And the Phantom and this police officer is basically saying, "Oh, I've heard many stories. I don't know who you are. Who are you?" And the Phantom and the police officer are just wanting to get on with it. The Phantom tells a few stories and clears up a few corrections to do with what the grandma has told his son or grandson, to be exact. Then they go into the warehouse again, they build and they bash nearly and they get people and they knock people out. And then these criminals who we saw at the start of this story had actually beaten the absolute living crap out of the police officer. So in the coming pages, the Phantom takes care of the other guys. He gives them a good old warm up, and then the police officer lays in. He absolutely destroys them. Absolutely destroys them. And then they are tied up. The Phantom, the police officer, and then the police officer reports that he is alive. I am this person that's been missing for the last couple of months, and I am still alive. So can you please come and pick these criminals up? We have caught them. We have made, and he puts in a report, and he then says, the commissioner then says, she talks about how there was another person in his report. So he then says, I should rewrite my report, Commissioner. So it tells the whole story. Then she says, we don't deal in myth around here, Detective. Thank you for your report. We're finished. And then she goes on to say, see you this evening, Joe. This evening, ma'am? This evening at the banquet the department's throwing in your honor. Wait for it. He then says, oh no, I forgot all about that. Can you give my apologies, Commissioner? I've got to go and fetch an old lady out in the jungle. So he goes and he finds his grandma, and his grandma is so overly joyed that his grandson has survived, and now the Phantom adventure has ended. But before it ends, they see the Phantom, the back of the Phantom. They see the Phantom, they see the back of the Phantom, the last time they may see him ever again. The next story we have is the reunion. Diana and the Phantom are basically, Diana's received this letter, and basically I would say the Phantom has sort of set Diana up a tiny little bit, and in the coming pages, we've seen that the Phantom is now visiting and is now having a meeting with, you would say, Sahara. What's her name again? Because Kadia Sahara is her daughter, and now she is now meeting up with a Phantom. The Phantom is then basically telling where you can find your daughter. She, she then goes and tries to find her daughter. Her daughter is then staying with Heloise Walker. Heloise Walker and this person's daughter are now staying with this, you would say, a person that's just looking after her. And this person is now cooking pancakes, which is a great thing. Pancakes are very, very great when you get to have them. They The daughter and Heloise then tell this big, well, Heloise is partly fibbing here, and then Heloise then calls the Phantom, or her father basically, and then Kadiz's mother turns up. She's overjoyed with this, and then she reacts and says, I do not want to see you again. I do not. And then there's this big dramaticness. She doesn't want to be with her mother anymore. She just wants to be within the Walker family. The Walker family is, I would say, at the end of this story, we see the Walker family and the Phantom and Diana Walker and Heloise Walker are sort of creating this thing to do with, I think they're just like manipulating poor Kadia into thinking the Walkers are now your family and you are now loved and you don't have to be a terrorist anymore. You don't have to be a daughter to a terrorist anymore. You have a basically they're trying to make her life a bit better and they've already got her. Mr. Walker and the Phantom have already got her a job, which is pretty cool. And now she's not wanting to go to a job. She then goes to a job. Heloise Walker then talks to the mother, and the mother then is not very that happy with. And is she's trying to basically work out who's this Phantom, who's this Mr. Walker that they're talking about. And then, oh, it goes off. It just, the bottle cap just goes off. It is all over the place. Sahara's daughter, she smashes the front windscreen of her mother's car, and the mother's car, you would say nearly totaled, but then she goes. The Phantom is then having a lengthy conversation with Diana Walker, his wife, and at the end of this story, we have, oh god, we have a printing error. Yes, in this book, we have had, I would say, more than 5 times I've seen in this book, we've seen printing errors. You can see right here and on page 58 and page 59, I did not do this. This came as it was. We have a printing error. We have a comic book that has printing errors in this few publications. We have a printing error in the 2022 Phantom Christmas special. I was. Some of the panels are very, very, well, you'd say hard to read. And some of them you don't really notice the printing errors. But in this page, these 2 pages especially, you notice them because of the pink tint on the edge of the pages. If we're saying, I know this can't really be changed because it's already printed, it's already in production, and that few publications can't really change anything once they hit the send and they go and it gets sent to the printer. But I know this can't be changed, and if you're printing so many, if you're printing so many covers and so many books and distributing them very largely, I would say at larger scale right now, I think that the Phantom and few publications are distributing the Phantom very well. They're distributing them very, very well, and they're creating good stories. They're creating news stories for Phantom fans to read. They're creating news stories for other publishers to publish as well. So that's pretty cool. But is this book going to be the first time that we see a printing error, or is there going to be more printing errors in the future? I don't know the answer to that question. We'll just have to find out and wait to see. Our third story in this book is called The Then Came Towns Ellaby. So there's this this trusted guy, this big trusted person. He's a trusted man. He's the chief's most trusted man in Mexico. This story sort of comes back and it comes back and forth, and it talks about a story that was done, a daily story, or yeah, it was talking about a daily story that was published in the newspapers in 2011 or 2010 to 2012. And the first couple of stories are based in Mexico. This is basically, I would say, the sequel to those three stories. And recently, the first couple of stories have been published by Shakti Comics. I haven't got the issues yet. I think I've only got, issue 4, issue 3. It's one of them because there's a story which relates back to this, and I think there's another issue that I have in my collection that relates back to this, and I think it's a Mexican story. I haven't read it. I haven't read the story, so that might be a story I might have to look at soon. So the trusted man is getting help from the Phantom. And the Phantom he goes into Rhodia the normal fashioned way. Mr. Walker punches old mate in the face, and they take charge of the bus. The bus then goes into Rhodia. They take the Jeep as per usual. They go into Rhodia. The Phantom tells him how he can basically save his chief. They take the guy that forced the chief in going onto this plane trip. The guy, Ernesto's friend, sort of was a guy that is a bad guy, but he sort of tricked him and then set up a plot, and then Ernesto is then put into jail, which is wrong because this Ernesto is a chief and he's doing the right thing basically, but the Rhodian people and the Rhodian government are basically protecting this bad guy. And at the end of this story, this guy, Ernesto's childhood friend, is mopped up. He's tied up. They go to Gravelines. The Phantom doesn't really. The Phantom's not a big fan of Gravelines right now. I know that in the new daily story that's happening right now, he is at Gravelines. Last time I read, he was at Gravelines. He's not a big fan of Gravelines because there's another story that relates to this Gravelines prison, and it's to do with the death of Diana Palmer Walker. So he's not a big fan of the prison. Who would be? It's a fascist nation. No one really likes this nation. A fan doesn't really like this nation. But the Phantom then helps the trusted man. He takes out a few guards, and the trusted man has then. Well, you would think that looks like, you'd think that looks like Savannah Devi, but it's not. It's another person that's trapped in that prison, probably for wrong or good reasons. And then the trusted man takes out another people. Another thing I'd like to say, the trusted man is Mike Manley. He looks like Mike Manley, but we'll see if Mike Manley pops up in this story. The trusted man's calling out to Chief Salinas. Trusted man eventually rescues Chief Salinas. The Phantom meets back up with them. They cross the Rhodian border and go into Mangala. Ernesto is then taken into custody by the Jungle Patrol. Yes, the Jungle Patrol arrive in helicopters to capture him, but he is then locked up. Chief Salinas and the trusted man then talk to him. Then not Chief Salinas, the trusted man then talks to the colonel. The the colonel, what's his name? Yeah, and they're trying to work out who this John X, this Phantom, this Mr. Walker, and then he realizes that's him, that's the guy who helped me, and now thinks, oh no, I've got to keep this under wraps. I've got to keep this, you would say, still a secret. And so then the Phantom, he's talking to Chief Salinas, his wife, and his wife is basically the guy who told Mr. Walker, aka Towns Ellaby. And then at the end of the story, Ernesto works out who this Towns Ellaby is, and that is, it stands for Be Well, Ernesto. It's like a riddle, and it's like a acronym for a person's name, and he's used all the letters that spell Be Well, Ernesto. And then there's a person that has been remembered in this story, and it is in memory of the trusted man. Let me get this right. Gianluno or Tagluno, Felix Jones, Felix Flones. He was born in 1978 and unfortunately passed away in 2019. Now we have, meanwhile, at the Jungle Patrol HQ, you can be like the Colonel and subscribe to the Phantom for $208 per month. You can now subscribe online at www.phantomcomic.com.au. You can now get the Phantom's World trading cards, a new set of 18 trading cards. They are now available at phantomcomic.com.au for $33 plus postage within Australia. And there we have it. I'm liking this cover more and more, and I love this cover even more. And as always, if you haven't subscribed to the YouTube channel Phantom Cave Reviews, you can always subscribe to the Phantom Cave Reviews. If you haven't, we're going to be publishing. We've published a lot of videos this year, and it's been a great conversation to do with the Phantom. It's been great talking about the Phantom, and of course, this is the last community hangout, and I'd like to say have a Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year, an even happier New Year. And as always, you will be seeing me back on the channel in the new year with a third season of The Enthusiast. Yes, The Enthusiast is coming back. It's coming back stronger than ever. We're going to be interviewing people. We're going to be possibly interviewing fans of the Phantom. So that's going to be pretty cool. And as always, keep Phantom caving. Stay safe. Have a Merry Christmas and an even happier New Year. And we will be having 2 more videos come out this year. One being the top 4 best giant size Phantom comics of this year, and the other one being the top 10 best Phantom comics of 2022. So have a great Christmas, have an even greater Happy New Year, and we'll see you in 2023. And as always, keep Phantom caving, and we'll see you later.